This is just so shockingly cool. It feels like over the course of the last couple years, we've really been experiencing this horror renaissance. Honestly, just the Resident Evil remakes being so spectacular, but also RE7 and now RE Village being such masterpieces of frights. Specifically, I really loved the original Resident Evil Village when we got it, just because it had such good monster design, such good story, and honestly, a lot of heart to it. Resident Evil Village was already spectacular, but that's why I've been incredibly curious about this massive DLC expansion, the Gold Edition, to see what's new, what's different, and why it's definitely better. Well, Capcom gave me early access to it, and now we gotta talk about all the gory details. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, the Winter's expansion, which is what this is being called, is three major new things. They've completely added a third-person mode, which allows you to play the entire game as a third-person, over-the-shoulder experience, which feels radically different. We're going to talk about that. Of course, there is the new additional characters that have been added to Mercenaries Mode, which is Lady Dimitrescu herself, the Queen of Step on Me, and obviously Heisenberg. And finally, the part that I was personally the most curious about, which is Shadows of Rose, a completely new chunk of storyline that takes place 16 years in the future with a grown-up version of Ethan's daughter on a very special kind of mission. Now let's talk about all the aspects of it. There's going to be absolutely no spoilers in it. Capcom gave me early access, but they said I can't show you any puzzles and I can't show you any bosses because honestly, they're so good, they would blow your mind. But let's start things off by talking about Shadow of Rose. This follows the story of Rose on a very personal journey as she tries to remove the special powers that she was unfortunately just forced to have. Because her dad, Ethan, was a mold monster, she now essentially has the powers of mold herself. Psychic, mysterious abilities that don't quite make sense, and she essentially just wants to remove them. They cause her only grief. She wants to be a normal kid, which I think is completely fair. Well, a scientist gives her the idea to go into the Megamycete, the mother brain of mold, and just remove it, to cleanse herself, body and soul. The entirety of Shadow of Rose takes about 3 hours to complete, but honestly, it feels downright terrifying, especially the later sections. There are some big reveals that I feel like are starting to set up some of the opening bits of what may become Resident Evil 9, but also it just feels genuinely classically terrifying. This feels like old school survival horror. If Rose gets hit, these new monsters called the Face Eaters, well, I mean, they eat your face. The only way to stop them is to shoot them a couple times or use her special psychic abilities to temporarily freeze them. This is so cool. It's so mysterious. There's like a weird version of the Duke. There's remixed levels and a bunch of new extra areas that are sort of like plays upon the stuff we saw in the original campaign. This is all in her mind. It is just a weird interpretation of these memories that other people who have died near the Megamycete already have implanted. Honestly, Shadows of Rose is really good. I'm probably going to make a separate video talking about spoilers here once it's officially out so we can all enjoy it together, because it is a big departure and it gets me extra excited for the future of Resident Evil. But let's talk about third-person mode, because this is the other part of Gold Edition that to me feels like a big change for the better. The two most talked about aspects of Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 has definitely been the scares of it. I've seen so many people talk about them being the most horrifying Resident Evils. In fact, there were old studies that showed that like 60% of the people that bought Resident Evil 7 were so scared they could not finish it. Now, I've always been a big believer in that part of that comes to the first-person camera view. The fact that when you were trying to skulk through all these terrifying environments and getting eaten by weird giant babies or whatever like that, being stuck in the first person makes that experience all the more personal in that fear. So while in third-person mode, things don't quite feel so viscerally in your face, but I also kind of enjoy it because honestly, there is just so many additional cool animations and little details to the environments that I could not actually witness. Now, this is a completely optional thing. You can do this whenever you want. You just go into the menu and you toggle it from first person to third person. It's not like you have to select it on the opening menu. It's just whatever you want. But playing through the opening bit of this again, I played all the way through Lady D's castle, so like the first third of the game completely in third person. This looks so good. And honestly, what's kind of shocking to me is that it does feel different. Being able to line up those shots, actually seeing Ethan's trembling hands while he's trying to quickly reload. Now, I have beaten the game on the hardest difficulty and speed run the game a bunch of times, so I mean, I know where every single enemy is and I have all the infinite ammo guns unlocked, but it's still kind of cool to see people getting knocked back by my bullets or werewolves hiding on rooftops getting ready to ambush you. This is a very cool change that I think improves an already fantastic experience. During certain story moments where it did kind of a shock glance where like somebody decides to chop off one of Ethan's hands for the 50th time or something like that, it still goes first person for the cutscenes occasionally, simply because honestly it's plot relevant for you to see your hands in front of your face. Now, the last thing is the tiniest additional part, but I think it is cool. Mercenaries Mode has existed in Resident Evil Village since the very start. Once you beat the game, you get the ability to basically run through waves and waves of enemies with high scores, top times, and it is very fun. I do like Mercenary Mode quite a bit. Well, now you can play it and unlock Lady D and Heisenberg, the two main baddies, in my opinion, to the game itself. And it's cool that they're in this. Well, I guess they're not the main baddies, but I'm not supposed to talk spoilers. Unlocking these guys takes a lot of practice, actually. You have to play through these certain particular levels and get the highest scores possible. In some cases, S rank on some of the last stages. So I do unfortunately think that there is going to be a lot of people who get the Winter's expansion and probably are not going to experience everything that this special new mode has to offer. Overall, I have to say, Resident Evil Village Gold Edition, it's totally worth the money. It's difficult to put a number on this, but I would give it a 10. I mean, I love the story that much. I do think getting a chance to see more of Ethan Winters is spectacular. The emotional heartstrings of Shadow of Rose, I mean, this feels like they took the best Resident Evil game in the last couple years and somehow improved it. This is time, this is dedication, this is exactly what Resident Evil fans deserve, especially as we count down the days to Resident Evil 4 Remake. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Oh my gosh, I'm going to beat this on every difficulty. Get ready. I'm definitely going to do some sort of spoilerly video. I'm not allowed to talk about that for a couple more days, but once it's actually out, I'm definitely probably this weekend going to do like a big deep dive. Let's talk about what Resident Evil Village Shadow of Rose means for Resident Evil 9. Get ready for that. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.